Hey guys, Lancer here. Hope everyone's doing well. Thanks for joining me. We'll look into some breaking news, I guess. It's one of those things where we expected this to happen, at least as far as Australia is concerned. I am amazed that there isn't more anger in the other parts of the world. Maybe there is, maybe it's just hard to see. But in Australia, Philip Lowe is the RBA chair, pretty much equivalent to Jerome Powell, but a lot weaker in a lot of ways. Jerome Powell is a lot stronger as far as the world is concerned, because the US dollar is the global currency of trade. So they have power over a lot of commodities and everything else that goes around in the world, while RBA is more concerned about what's happening with the property markets and immigration and obviously employment. What they should focus on is interest rates and the rate of change of products and unemployment or employment, but they seem to be far more focused on other things. Let's get to it. So the consequences calls for Reserve Bank Governor Philip Lowe to resign over interest rate debacle. And this is from Alexis Carey from news.com. Now, the reason why I'm covering this, once again, it's one of those things where we really got to make sure that we understand what the wealth effect is. And it all adds up to people are going to feel poorer over the next couple of years, and they're going to buy less things. People are then going to have less jobs and opportunities. It doesn't have to go that way because of the way that the markets have behaved in the last couple of years, where they're just waiting for someone to come and save them. But that's what we need if we want to cut down inflation, where people are already making less things in the first place, and labor costs are insanely high. Poaching is very common in my industry, and it's very hard to get workers to actually stick around because another company is asking if you're available whenever they can. So what is going on? So Dr. Lowe actually apologized. He said it was regrettable that Australians listened to what we said. The most important bank in Australia is amazed that people actually listen to them. This guy gets paid almost a million AUD, Australian dollars, every year. I think it's like 910,000, which is insane. That's more than our prime minister. That's more than a lot of other government officials. Anyway, that's my dinner. So what exactly is going on? So he's pretty much saying, I'm sorry that we kind of said that interest rates probably wouldn't increase until 2024. And a lot of people are just throwing the book at him. They want to call him. They want to get him out. They want to vote him out. I mean, they can't because, funnily enough, the Reserve Bank is not democratic. We don't get a chance to say who is in it and who gets to control our money supply. And neither does anyone, I guess, in the US or Canada or anywhere else in the world. The reserve banks of each of the countries are created by very specific people that kind of know each other in most of their lives. And they just kind of stick together and get up to the point where they can make these kinds of calls for the betterment mostly of their, I guess, people that like to take risk. In a lot of cases, that is a way to grow the economy. It's the same reason why gold and silver and crypto is really hard to grow the economy when you can't just create more currency out of thin air to lend to people to then start businesses. So there is a validity to fiat currency because that's the best way to create incentive and give the people opportunity to borrow money and make poor people with borrowed money good decisions, start a business, pay back the loan, and all of a sudden they're no longer poor. It's kind of a way to actually increase wealth, but the problem is it also means that as time goes on, it becomes riskier and riskier, and it becomes harder and harder to keep up with everything. So during May of this year, which we talked about, we got the first rate increase from 0.05. So oh my God, it was 0.1%, and then they increased it by 25 basis points to 0.35. Since then, it's gone up to 2.85, and I think next month it's going to be 3.10, and then the month after that is probably going to be 3.45 or 35. Like, it's just going to go up because the way that it's weighted for the RBA, as far as interest rates goes, for our core index, what actually gets counted as raising interest rate environment. Rent is a huge part of it, and food is another huge part, and energy is also another huge part. Rent has gone up by so much, and the data that the RBA have is backwards looking and lagging, which means that they probably will not be able to get the interest rates to come back, inflation to come back down for the next couple of months, because rents are just so high right now. It's gone up by almost 20% just this year, which means that in a lot of places, to even catch up, they're going to have to see a 20% increase in inflation. 30% of the inflation is rent, so 20% increase is going to bleed into that 30% over the next couple of months, which means that interest rates are probably going to stay around about 6%. They're going to stay stubbornly high for way longer than expected. And Dr. Lowe is going to come out every single month and say, inflation is too high. We're going to have to bump up interest rates. We want to make sure we can get to the 2 to 3% rate. And it is going to hurt a lot of people. But funnily enough, people are not blaming him 100%. A lot of the comments and conversation is people shouldn't have taken such large loans in the hopes that they were going to wait until 2024 to start paying it back. Because here's the thing. If you took $1 million or $1.5 million loan, or even a $600,000 loan, or like anything that you feel is a lot of money, but you were pretty much expecting, oh, by 2024, we should be good, you were probably not going to be exactly in a good situation, even in 2024, because what are you going to do? You locked in. My lock-in comes off at around about 2024, 2025, but I locked in at a really cheap house. Even if I get rid of this one, I would probably get one as cheap. I'm not going to go out of my way to spend a huge amount of money for a house when I know that it's already inflated to a point where I can't cover the expenses. And a lot of people did. So it's very tricky when inflation starts biting on their food supply, on rental, on how many bills they had to pay, the energy costs. And RBA isn't 100% to blame for it, but Dr. Lowe, Philip Lowe, is going to take a lot of hits for this. And Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, he says he has confidence in Dr. Lowe, but let me just say, this is going to get worse before it gets better. And I think the US is going to face a very similar situation. Same with Canada, same with a lot of places around the world. So I would highly recommend anyone that's interested in the wealth effect, figuring out how people actually feel about this. In the next couple of months, we're going to start seeing these interest rate increases hit, and things are going to slowly change for people's mentality over the last 2 years. And the last 2 years have done a lot of damage. It's going to take a lot of time for people to go back to their mindset of, oh crap, we need to spend less to actually get less. We can't just borrow money and keep this going. Anyways, guys, a lot to take in. We're going to have to see how it all turns out. Interesting stuff, but keep you posted. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.